Welcome to tonight's session. Nice core space workout tonight. So this week, as we've been saying in the squad WhatsApp group, this session is kind of a prelude to next week's critical power testing. So make sure you're there for that. I know testing is always one that makes people nervous, but as you all know, we benchmark all the time, including this session. You know, this is a great example, another session where we do benchmarking, as we've got a 5-minute TT towards the beginning of the session. So let's talk you through the workout. Got a nice long 15-minute build, nice long 15-minute warm-up, increasing every 3 minutes by sort of about 5 or 6% of FTP, just working our way through zone 2. It's a very aggressive pen closing notification. Not sure why it needs to be red and flashing when I'm already in the pen. Anyway, yeah, so it's 15 minutes warm up, going through zone 2. We then have just a very short little ramp where we go for a minute at sort of tempo, 80% of FTP, minute at sweet spot, 90%, and then just a 30-second anaerobic burst, really just to kind of weight the legs up and get going. Then have a 3-minute cruising interval before we get into the first it's the one and only 5-minute TT. So the 5-minute time trial, that's a really good test of your VO2 max conditioning, how well developed your VO2 is. So yeah, that's the main one. That's kind of the serious part of the session. And then we'll have a lovely 10-minute recovery. You've got tons of recovery just pooling around the velodrome. And then we'll get a bit silly again. So the way we're going to do it is on the workout, it just says 20 minutes free ride. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing sprint laps. So it's going to be 1 lap full gas, followed by 2 or 3, depending on how quickly the group is moving around the circuit, 2 or 3 laps of recovery, and then we go again. So the idea is we should be able to get at least 6 sprint laps in, and depending how quickly the group moves around, we're looking at sort of 45, 50-second efforts. But obviously the group dynamic is determined by who's in it. So we'll see. It's a little bit more fun, a little bit more entertaining than a completely structured workout. Now though, we're just cruising. Nice and relaxed. Spinning out the legs, cadence wise upwards of 80 RPM. And in a second I'm going to just start to talk a little bit about race nutrition and fueling. We talk a lot about nutrition, but there's just a couple of kind of key pointers that I want to bring your way. But we're just going to have a little bit more of a pedal. Sorry, setting on my fan. Felt like a long way away in the depths of the winter. Never thought I'd ever need a fan again, but here we are. 3 minutes in and already needing a fan. It's like a relief, point lie. Winter was tough in this cold garage. So here we are on the second step. Each of them is 3 minutes long. We're staying in erg mode until we get through that ramp section I talked about, and then we'll turn erg mode off. Let's get stuck into our little chat then. So we're talking about race nutrition. Primarily we're talking basically, fluid versus solid carbs. And as always, there's always a caveat. This week's is, it does depend on the event, on personal preference as well, and experience. You really do have to train your gut, and you may have heard that a lot, usually when someone's trying to sell you a product. But it's true, your body does adapt, and so that's why always people are saying, you need to train with whatever product you're using a lot before you race. It's not actually just marketing speak, it's legit. Your body really is very impressively adaptable. So you'll see like some of the long distance triathletes now, assuming sort of 120 grams of carb an hour. And I can actually tell you that is quite hard to do. You really have to train your body to be able to do that. So just make sure you understand that everything we're talking about this evening comes with like the underpinning caveat that you need to train to be able to kind of live up to the general principles we're going to talk about. So, as I say, in short, how you approach your nutrition and hydration in a race or an event depends on the level of intensity. So the higher the intensity, the more hypoxic your digestive system becomes. That just means starved of oxygen. And so the higher the intensity, the harder it is to digest things. So the less solid for a form of fuel you're using, generally speaking, the quicker it is to get into your system. So basically, the more fluid it is, and the less solid it is, the quicker it is to digest. It's got a lot broader surface area and easier for the body to break down. Just one key thing I really want to make clear before we talk about fluid versus solid carbs. Fluid carbs should not be seen as covering hydration as well. They will obviously have a hydrating effect and it'll be relatively decent, but it's not optimal for hydration. Okay, carb heavy drinks are not optimal for hydration. I can tell you this both from my expert knowledge but also experience. Okay, I've been caught out before, which I'll describe towards the end of our chat. So when you're approaching your racing, you want to view your fueling and hydration as separate, and you think about them separately. Just smashing carb drinks isn't always the way, and it's rarely the sole way. Okay. There's another thing to say, I guess, is there's no perfect, ultimate scenario, ultimate catch-all approach. There's a huge amount of individualization to this, or individual preference. So I'll hopefully give you some key, some general kind of advice that will help you work it out for yourself. So yeah, don't see fluid carbs as being about hydration. Hydration is about hydration. Your hydration strategy is about hydration. Perfect hydration is, your perfect hydration source would be something that has a high sodium content. Talked previously, circa 1,000 milligrams of sodium per litre, and then it would have a less than 4% carb concentration. So some carbs in there, it actually is optimal, but just less than 4% carb concentration, just to help, along with the sodium, to shunt the water across your gastrointestinal tract. I'll just repeat that because I think that's a really important point. Your perfect hydration source would have a high sodium content of circa 1,000 milligrams of sodium per litre, and then a sub 4% carb concentration. Guys, that's not hard to work out. You just go to maybe your carb mix is, or whatever drink source you use. It's really easy to work out the ratios. You only have to do it once, and then you can do it, mechanically, or perpetuity, basically. So it's worth investing the time in this instance, just to kind of work out how, with the sources and the resources you've got, how you achieve that perfect hydration source. And don't try and confuse it with your fueling source. Okay? As I say, our goal for fueling depends on the length of the event. If you're fully stocked up, you've got somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half's worth of glycogen in your muscles and liver. And obviously, where you sit in that spectrum as to availability of glycogen depends on the intensity. So the harder you're working, the closer you are to that 1 hour mark. The lower intensity, you can eke it out for a bit longer. But even sub 1 hour events, we're seeing more and more the pros taking on carbs during 1 hour events. And I thought it would inevitably be a question, so I'll cover that now. The carb intake, even in sub 1 hour events, can have a positive impact, because when carbs are sensed in your mouth, it triggers release of glycogen in the rest of your body. So because your body knows that carbs are on the way, it will release what little stores it has left. And so you'll notice it, like if you're hungry and then you have something sugary, the relief of hungriness is almost immediate. And that's because your body has sensed that carbs are on the way, and so it's released some that are already in the system. So that's why in cyclocross, and if you follow any crit stuff, those guys are taking on board gels, so roughly halfway mark, or for about, roughly halfway, maybe 40 minutes in, depends on the event. And that's because, to get this kind of positive impact of this preemptive release of glucose. Now, as a general rule, I would say the longer and lower intensity the event is, the more you want to lean on solid forms of carbohydrate. But there kind of are caveats within that as well. The climatic conditions are important there, because if it's really cold, for instance, when you eat solid foods, they can actually be really hard just to eat full stop. If it's got packaging and you've got gloves on, getting the packaging undone and then trying to actually eat it. Energy bars, we've probably all experienced it when it's really cold. They can be hard to break off and then quite hard to chew. So that's just something to think about as well, how the weather might impact what you're eating. Sorry guys, if someone asked me a question, I was just getting. Guys, if you make sure your microphones are muted, if you don't want to ask a question. Cheers, thanks guys. But by all means, if you want to ask a question, speak up. No, don't wait for me. Interrupt. Feel free. But I just get. No, it's no problem. No problem. It's no problem. I just couldn't work out whether someone's trying to ask a question or not, because sometimes when I'm talking, it kind of cuts out the audio a little bit in my ears. So sometimes I'm like, is someone asking me a question, or am I just going crazy? Anyway, so the lower intensity in an event, probably leaning on more solid carbs, but of course taking in other factors into account. And that's just because it's easier at lower intensity to digest those solid carbs, and usually they're a denser form of carbohydrate, and that is primarily the energy source we want to rely on in any kind of event in racing. Carbs. How you determine how much? You want to be getting somewhere. If it's a goal event and it's sort of well over an hour, a proper endurance event, you do want to try and get something like 100 grams of carb per hour. So half Ironman, long sportives, big gravel races, road races, amateur road races tend to be around 2 hours. So you've got to take your fueling very seriously, but it can be quite hard in a road race because of the intensity. Just taking a hand off the bars to grab a carb drink or gel, that can actually be quite difficult. But particularly for long distance events, long course triathlon, sportives, etc. You should be looking to aim to get 100 grams of carb in an hour, but not easy to do straight off the bat. As I said at the beginning of this chat, you really have to train your body. So you have to start somewhere like 70 grams an hour in training and build it up. And that obviously comes at a cost financially. So it's something to really think about how you're going to achieve that. But you really want to be able to get there by the time your event comes around, because the alternative is being underfueled. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there because I'm about to come into the ramp, and I'll talk a little bit more when we get through the 5-minute time trial. So here we go, the ramp, a minute at tempo, a minute at sweet spot, 30 seconds anaerobic, and then we're gonna, yeah, go ahead. Erg mode off will be, yeah, so erg on is E, and then erg off is F. That'll give you a fixed resistance. Okay? Yeah, yeah, F for foxtrot, as you say. If you're worried about it, guys, turn it off now. It has been known for me to forget to remind people, so I think maybe just turn it off now. But at the moment we're looking to hit about 80% of FTP, and what I would like us to do, guys, is build our cadence as we go up. So let's try and get to circa 100 RPM right now. If you've got erg mode on, don't stress too much about the power target. Just 7 out of 10 effort. We're more interested in having a decent amount of power whilst you're working quite hard. First sort of reminder to relax. Another 20 seconds. Then we're going to go anaerobic. Do your best to hit the power target on this one. We don't want to go too hard if erg mode is off. It's just an opener. You've only got 3 minutes to recover for the TT. So this is just an acceleration, a rev up. Again, really keen for a nice high cadence. It's upwards of 100 RPM now. Last 10. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, really relax. As the note helpfully says, I forgot that, and that's helpful. Erg mode off. So moving to where it says F on the trainer setting, F for foxtrot. Okay. There we go. Oh, come on. Sorry, my menu wasn't coming up. X. External. Oh, so that'll be using a power meter instead, I think. Let's check. Yeah, that'll be, if you've got a power meter attached as well, that will move to your power meter setting the providing the data feedback. So if you're just using a smart trainer, then you won't want to use that. Yeah, I'd say so. You can put it on terrain mode as well because it's a perfectly flat course. Sometimes terrain mode is useful when you're so there's one of the climbs in Training Peaks virtual I use for sprint testing, and I put it on terrain mode. It gives you so that I have a bit more of a natural resistance. But for this, guys, just get it on fixed. And we'll talk about other scenarios another time. I don't want to confuse anyone. No worries. We just spin up the legs. The power target right now is about 65% of FTP, but don't worry about that. Just spin up your legs, get your heart rate back to circa 100 beats per minute. So just relax, because in about a minute's time we've got our 5-minute TT. For this, guys, the power target is arbitrary. It's not personal, I'm afraid. We're not quite there yet in terms of the individualization of group workouts on Training Peaks Virtual. So it will be set at 115% of your FTP, which probably isn't going to be too far off what you can hit for a 5-minute TT. But I would definitely not rely on that to kind of pace. I would go on feel, and don't overthink it. You know, your body is incredible in terms of its internal pacing. All I would say is build into it over the course of the first 30 seconds, minute. Just build into it so that you know, you can finish really strong. 5 minutes, as hard as you can go. It's surprisingly long time. It feels like an eternity sometimes. You're going to be really uncomfortable on that VO2 edge of VO2 max, basically. Okay, ready, guys? Here we go then. Come on, build into it. Take your time with your gearing. Just make sure we're nice and efficient with the cadence. So you want a nice high cadence. I'd say upwards of 90 RPM. So try and get that, and then feed in the gears steadily and build into it. A little over 30 seconds in, so should be getting relatively close to power. First minute down. Just check it, try and tick it off minute by minute. Try not to look too far ahead. My cadence just sits a little bit, but try and keep it up. Above 90 RPM if we can. That's 2 down. Let's focus on the next minute. Reaching halfway. There we go, you're right. Halfway. Another 26 seconds or so. We're going to try and lift. Few minutes then, guys, let's try and lift it. Push it really hard all the way to the end. Nine seconds, come on guys. Drive it, drive it, drive it. Okay, last minute. Ready? Let's go, guys, come on. Push. We've got a ton of recovery after this. Don't hold back. Thirty seconds. Let's go fully anaerobic. Come on. Everything you got. Last 20. Last 10 then. Sprint. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Whew. Well done, guys. Whew. Just spin up. Oh man, well, I'm not working as hard as you guys are. I'm just kind of going as hard as I can without getting too dizzy. Well done, guys. So catch your breath back. Once you go on top of the gear again, bring your cadence back above 80. Don't stress too much about the power target. That you can ease back into that. But once you're back in a certain level of comfort, try and get the fluids on board. Hopefully some form of electrolyte drink in the bottle. If not, guys, we've only got this our penultimate session, so I've only got 2 more opportunities to hound you guys about really being on top of the hydration situation. So you remember back to our preloading, our hyperhydration chat. Before a session, circa 90 to 45 minutes before a session, a strong electrolyte drink, close to 1500 milligrams of sodium per litre. So if you got like a 500 ml bottle, you want 750 milligrams in there. If you've got a 500 ml bottle of water, 750 milligrams of sodium at least. And then in session, again, you're looking for 1000 milligrams per litre, so 500 milligrams of sodium in a 500 ml bottle. So 500 to 500 basically in the session. Hopefully that simplifies it a little bit. But just relax, guys. Bring that cadence back up. So as I was saying, solid carbs generally for low intensity stuff. What you can go for kind of more nutrient dense sources as well, just to mix up the flavor profile. So flapjack, things like that can be great, although maybe not like butter flapjack. It's a lot of saturated fat. And just like basically with the more nutrient dense food comes, typically the slower it is to absorb. So that's, you obviously want, if you're eating something solid, you want other stuff in there. But yeah, you just got to hold back on it. So for instance, not too much in the way of nuts or fiber, because fiber in particular will slow absorption. And really even a low intensity long event, you still want your carbs into your system as quickly as possible, because after an hour and a half, you think about it, you're just basically recycling the whole time. It doesn't touch the sides. Even if you're kind of just zone 2ing, but you're doing it for 4, 5, 6 hours, anything that goes in is going to be burnt straight away. Okay, yes, you'll be using fat for energy as well, but you don't want to rely too heavily on that. So yeah, of course, go ahead. I don't know, to be honest. So the question was about how many bites of a Cliff Bar or something like that. I think it's hard to say because I don't have the Cliff nutritional information in front of me. I would just look on the back of the pack and see how much carbohydrate each one has, and then that is the easiest way. And then you just kind of, however long your ride is, you then work out from that. If we're looking for 70 to 100 grams of carbs and building up through the preparation, you just kind of look at how long you got and then work out how much carbs are there and then how much carb you're going to need. And then just after, if it's a low intensity ride, after an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, start fueling. And how much you consume each time obviously depends on what you're eating and how long you got to go. So as I say, guys, I think just before your next ride, just have a look at everything that you consume, what carb it's got in it, and you only have to kind of do these little sums once, and then you'll know for future rides. It's for what? Sorry. Per hour. So the sodium concentrations, that's 100. So in race or in session, 1,000. The ratio should be 1,000 milligrams of sodium per liter per hour. Okay, so if you got two 500 ml bottles, you want probably one of those gone every hour. So you want that ratio of sodium to fluid going into your system every hour. In terms of the actual volume, it depends on it. I have got a calculator for it, which is very rough, but it almost always works out at somewhere between 500 and sort of 600 mils of water per hour. But it really depends on your on the intensity and the climate as well. But this is all stuff we can work out for your A races. But just for general training purposes, I would say 500 mils of fluid per hour is it's not going to be too far off. And obviously each one of those bottles you want, if it's a 500 ml bottle, you want 500 milligrams of sodium in there as well. Hopefully that I haven't confused you too much on that. Alright, cool. So yes, one last thing I was going to talk about in terms of, on a similar subject basically, is working out kind of what you need, and it depends on the race. So for like really high intensity stuff, you want more kind of fluid carbs, because the fluid's going to get to your system more quickly. And then as you kind of move up through road racing to gravel to long sportives, with gravel, you also have to take into account that when it's off-road, it's really hard to take your hands off the handlebars. And so that's why I would say in gravel, for the most part, I stick to gels and fluid carbs, because I don't want to stack it. And then for something like a long sportive or for a long course triathlon, for the bike at least, I would rely quite heavily on more solid carbs. I tend to make my own stuff, to be honest. I don't really like, there's usually a lot of crap in the energy bars. But yeah, again, so one story I was just going to tell you was about the RIAK that I did last year. So it's early May, but it was unseasonably warm, and at highest it was 27 degrees. And it's up in Scotland, it was really cold overnight. And so everybody was leaning more heavily on fluid carbs because, and had like extra fluid carbs rather than extra hydration, because they didn't expect it to be very hot, and so we didn't expect to need as much hydration, whereas we opted for more fueling. And God, everybody was dying. At the 130k to go mark, I saw 100 people at least with quite severe off their bike with cramp because it was so hot. So basically the message is, when you're making these deliberations, you've got to look at the weather, you've got to look at the profile. It's not as simple as take this much and this is what you should have on your bike, because it's so scenario dependent. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. And obviously for my squad guys, you know, this is stuff we'll work out with you and educate you on as we go. But just wanted to give you some general rules this evening on how to kind of approach it. But yeah, just remember those key things. In race, 1,000 milligrams of sodium per litre, and then your carbohydrate intake, you want upwards of 70 to 100 grams of carbohydrate. As we get towards your goal event, you want to be pushing that 100 gram per hour. Okay? Righty. So now I'm going to move on to, sorry, I don't know why I did a radio voice. We're now going to move on to some sprints. So don't panic just yet, guys. We'll line this up properly. We're not time pressured. This is meant to be a look, you know, it's obviously a very serious aspect to it because it's hard, but just a little bit unstructured, a little bit freestyle. So let's just give it a little bit longer, and just a little bit of fun really before we, so to balance out the serious nature of that 5-minute TT, which I can't imagine anyone was laughing about. So, right then, let's figure out where everyone is. Okay, so I need to pedal up a little bit, get to the back of the main group. So guys, how these sprints are going to work, it's going to be 1 lap off, on, at least 2 laps off. I'll determine how many laps after the first sprint. So we'll see kind of what speed we're going at. Okay, but let's get ready, okay? So, not now, but next lap, we're going to start. Okay? So you can see the lap time for that last one was about 48 seconds. So your sprints are probably going to be a fair bit quicker. But let's get ready. Let's try and get all towards the front if we can. And let's get ready to push it. So, building up the cadence, getting ready to drop the hammer. So as we cross the line, get ready guys, in a few seconds. Don't worry if you get detached a little bit, just go hard all the way to the finish line. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're about halfway. All the way to the line, guys. Well done. Okay, so 29 seconds, around 30 seconds. Relax. Good night, guys. Ease up a little bit. Bring the group back together. The UI.
Down, up, down, up,
Right,
down,
team.
up and down, elevator up, down, up, down,
Okay, so that's the 1 lap down.
down, elevator up,
So we'll do 3 laps recovery.
and down, up and down, up and elevator up,
This shit hot.
and down, up and down, and down, elevator up,
Down towards the end of the second. I think it's only fair after you guys have absolutely emptied yourself with that 5-minute TT. So we'll do 3 lap recovery. So that's second down. So we go at the end of this lap, guys. For round 2. My goal is to try and get at least 6 in. Or let's just say 6, shall we? Don't want to annoy anyone. I know what it's like when you say, oh, let's just do one more, let's just do one more. And you've emptied the tank thinking it's the last one. So we'll do 6. We've done one, 5 more. 5 more sort of 30-second-ish sprints. So we're going at the end of this lap. So start to bring up your cadence. Bring up the power of touch so you're not doing a sort of track stand. And let's get ready.
This shit hot.
Here we go.
Take it because you want it. Don't need permission because you already own it. Don't need to fake it because you want it. Don't need permission because you already own it. Bring me back, back, you can bring it back. Bring me back, back, you can bring it back. Bring me back, back, you can bring it back. Bring me back, back, you can bring it back. Bring it back, 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 back. Bring it back, 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 back.
Right, guys, that's 2 down. 4 to go. Let's spin up. Hey, sorry, if you're slow on the second half. Yeah, I mean, pace it a little bit. You know, I wouldn't worry about it too much. We're obviously, we want to see, it's quite helpful to see at what point you start to fade. So, but just for self-preservation reasons, yeah, you might want to pace it a little bit. But when it comes to sprint testing, which this isn't, by the way, we're just doing some anaerobic efforts for conditioning purposes. When it comes to sprint testing, we tend not to encourage people to pace it very much if it's sort of sub 30 second, because we want to see at what their anaerobic resistance is like. So yeah, for this purposes though, you know, kind of just build into it a little bit more maybe, and try not to go too explosive from the start so you can finish a bit stronger. So I think this is still the first lap, and I know no one's going to correct me if it's not. So let's just say this is the first lap. Okay, so this is the second lap. Might not be working as hard as you guys, but it's still hard to think when you're working very hard. And I'm not lying to you, I'm not far off my max when I'm working. Look to see. You don't think I feel a complete dick, but that's probably inevitable anyway. So coming up to the end of the second lap, one more lap recovery, and then we'll go for round 3. That probably will take us to about halfway through this 20-minute sector anyway. So one more lap, then we go for round 3, and then we'll be halfway through our sets. I think there's a bit of a learning thing here as well when it comes to the virtual racing, which is kind of one of the most obvious scenarios in which you'll be doing these types of efforts. 30 seconds is a long time. So if this lap is, I want to say it's about 500 meters. So don't start your sprint from 500 meters out, basically. You want to be closer to the 200 meters to go mark. So yeah, just bear this one in mind next time you do a virtual race. Anyway, let's get ready to go, guys. Okay. Round 3 done. Relax. Another first lap. By the way, guys, when you ask a question, if you see me like scrunching up my face like this, it's not because I'm like, why are they talking to me? It's because I can't, as I said earlier, I can't always hear that well. Generally anyway, but also because of the setup I've got. There's like I've got music covering it and stuff. So don't be put off asking questions. If you see me, I like grumpy old man face come out. Just try to catch the question. Okay, approaching the end of the second lap. So we go at the end of this lap for round 4. So just try and pick up the leg speed a bit, pick up the power of touch. Here we go again. Coming into the bottom straight. So get ready for it, guys. Ready? Here we go. Halfway. Okay, ready? Finish off. That's round 4 done. Woo. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. It's only how the recovery laps seem to get shorter as you get more fatigued. So that's the end of lap 1. 2 more, and then we'll go for the penultimate time. There's 2 more efforts, guys. They're really well done for getting involved tonight. As I said earlier, the data from your 5-minute effort will go nicely into our calculation for critical power, FTP, and W prime purposes. So this is the end of the second lap, I believe. It's funny how just counting to 3 becomes infinitely more difficult when you're 4 sprints deep. So we go again at the end of this round, end of this lap, sorry. So just pick up the effort a little bit, pick up the cadence. I went a bit off the front last time. I don't think it's helpful for anyone. So this is a bit. Remember the rubber banding is on. Or you get a bit annoyed that you're not catching someone as quickly as you should be or something. Okay, ready to go, guys. Or if you can't get rid of someone, here we go. There you go, over halfway now. Finish off strong. I felt that one. Oh man. Right, one more sprint, guys. So hopefully we'll have a good 5-minute cool down at the end. Don't stress if you really need to stop and come out the back a little bit. Rubber banding. We'll seek to bring it back in. Don't stress. There's no real draft impact. See. So we've done one lap. This is the second lap of recovery. Then we have one more sprint. Good job, everyone. Good job, guys. Right, last lap of recovery until the last sprint. Let's go for it on this last sprint, guys. Okay, let's line up then. Pick up the power, pick up the leg speed. Let's get ready to do it one last time, guys. Here we go then. Let's go then, guys. Last sprint. Okay, big last effort then. All the way to the end. Oh. Right, guys. Really well done, everyone. That's all your sprints gone. That's all the hard work done, guys. So just relax. Get your breath back. I'll just do a quick summary in a minute's time, but for now, just relax. Oh, yeah. Big session that. Hopefully that kind of gives you a nice little bit of preparation till next week for CP testing. Don't worry about testing, guys, okay? We do it periodically for obvious reasons, but as you know from tonight and from previous sessions, we are always doing little things to kind of check on your progress in different aspects, in different areas, different energy systems. So just come along next week. Always just encourage you to think about it as, you know, just a really high quality training session. Make sure before the session you do have a quick look at your current best over my mind's just gone blank now. Can't remember what testing protocol we're doing next week. Bear with me 2 seconds. So yeah, remember to check your best power over 20 seconds, over 3 minutes, and then over 12 minutes. So to do that, guys, just remember all you have to do is go to your benchmarking spreadsheet that you all have, that I'll create for each of you. Your key numbers will be on there, remember, okay? Or you can use the different analytics, Training Peaks, go on WK, whatever you got, but your most recent numbers will be up there. So just a quick summary of what we talked about, guys. Remember how you fuel a race or event, fluid versus solid carbs, depends on the level of intensity. Okay, the higher intensity the effort is, the more hypoxic your digestive system goes, and the slower it is to digest things. So the less solid the form of carbohydrate you're consuming, generally speaking, the quicker it is to get into your system. One key thing to avoid is seeing fluid carbs as a way of hydrating as well. Doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. Too concentrated to be optimal for hydration. Think about your hydration separately. So think about, remember, you want 1,000 milligrams of sodium per litre in your bottle, and it should have a sub 4% carb concentration. And then our goal for fueling an event does depend on the length, but generally speaking, for kind of endurance events, we're looking for as close to about 100 grams of carbohydrate per hour as we can get. In your training, start at 70, and over the weeks building up to your main event, make sure you're trying to eat a little bit more with each one until you're getting up to that 100 grams an hour. Practice everything well in advance in terms of what you're eating. Your body needs to adapt. Your body's amazing at adapting, but you have to give it a chance. But in terms of the length of the event and the type of carb or whatever, or how much carb or when to start fueling, you've got enough glycogen in your body when you're fully stocked up for about an hour to an hour and a half worth of exercise. You know, how high intensity you're working means you shift lower than that. So if it's a high intensity event, you're going to need to start fueling earlier. And even in sub 1 hour events, there's a big positive effect from a hit of carb sort of halfway through. Because as the sensors in your mouth pick up that glucose coming in, your body releases more. And so you get almost an instant positive effect from just ingesting. Okay? And then the other point I made was about climate, the type of carb you consume, and the ratio to what you carry in terms of hydration and fueling depends on the event. In really cold conditions, it can be quite hard to eat proper solid foods because they get brittle. And then likewise in hot events, sometimes you have to rely on more solid carbs because you need to carry more hydration. I gave you the example of the Gralic last year, where I took too much fluid carb, and I should have taken more solid carb or more gels to be more precise, and had more hydration with me. So yeah, it's just a quick summary, guys. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Don't worry, this isn't the only time we'll talk about this stuff. You're not on your own from here out. It's just some quick snippets, just to kind of set some. Don't know why I was doing that, but it's just to signpost it in your mind, and then on an individual basis, we'll create race plans for your goal event. We'll have separate conversations. So don't stress about it. These are just some general rules and some general advice to follow. But as a bare minimum, straight away, you should be looking to make sure your long rides are fueled. You should make sure that these high intensity sessions in particular are proper hydrated. So preload, and then make sure you got sodium in your bottle for the session itself. I know this stuff all involves money, guys. I'm not lost on that. So you do have to be a little bit selective at times. but let's start working on it, okay, if you're not already. Most of you guys are really good at this by now, but particularly some of the guys that are less experienced, you know, let's just start trying, you know. That's all we can do, is just do our best and try. Anyway guys, I've taken up enough of your time, so I will disappear unless anyone's got any specific questions. Obviously very happy to stick around for a little bit if anyone's got any questions. But otherwise guys, have a lovely evening. But yeah, I'll stick around if anyone's got any questions. No worries, man. No worries. Cheers, mate. See ya.